Broadcasting from featuring interviews with some of the biggest names in magic. Welcome to the Deceive Reality Podcast with your hosts, David Peace and Steve Spade.
And we are live. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Deceive Reality Podcast. Thanks so much for being here. We have an amazing guest this week, Michael. How are you doing, Michael? Thanks so much for being here.
Oh, pretty all right. Apparently, I'm amazing.
Yes.
So that's always good.
That's what we think anyway, and I think we're right.
Okay, here's another $1.
Thanks. If you can Venmo that or post that to me after.
I already got my brown envelope last week. That's why Mike's on the show.
Perfect.
Exactly.
So we always start with the same question, which is how you got into magic and escapes and all that sort of good stuff. So why don't you tell us your origin story?
Okay, well, it's kind of weird. I started out in magic. My babysitter, when I was about 5 years old, had a bobby pin. And he took the bobby pin and it vanished. And then he pulled it out of my eyeball. So that impressed me.
Yeah.
But then about a year or two later, my brother and I started tying each other up with ropes. You know, because I'd watch all these shows on TV like Batman, Superman. And my favorite was a show over here called The Wild Wild West with these secret agents like James West. And every single week, they would put him in stuff. They'd tie him up, put him in straitjackets or whatever. And he always got out. So my brother and I would always tie each other up with rope. I could always get out. But my brother never got out. I mean, we still feed him twice a day, but I could always get out. And so I just loved that. And then like all going up through school, I never got into drugs or alcohol. It just wasn't there for me, but I was always doing magic. I had the Amateur Magician's Handbook by Henry Hay that became my Bible. I love that book. And my friends and I would always be like, I'm palming a coin, which hand? Whack, and the coin goes over there. But I loved magic. And I was supposed to go into medicine like my dad. My dad was a psychiatrist. But I couldn't do that. I didn't want to do that. And I said, Dad, he goes, what? Because he goes, you're 16 now. What kind of a car do you want for your birthday? I said, I don't want a car. He goes, Mike, because that's my name. He goes, Mike, you're 16. We live in California. You have to have a car. I said, Dad, I don't want a car. He goes, oh my God, what do you want? I said, Dad, could I have a straitjacket? And with that, I got the family straitjacket and I chose the path really far less traveled.
Definitely. That is a strange request for a teenager to ask for a straitjacket over a car. I think I would have gone with the car myself.
Hey, I'm a strange teenager.
Yeah, I think we all have that. Whenever someone wants to buy us a gift, we're like, there's a new prop that I could really use, or there's a set of handcuffs over there that I really quite nice. Thanks. Not just the normal socks that everybody else gets.
It's a great angle though. The typical thing is, I want a car, Dad, but you want a straitjacket. It's just so left field. I mean, I know when I got my first straitjacket, it was a big ordeal for me to get one.
Have you really heard? I mean, listen to this conversation we're having. We got three guys talking like, well, when I got my first straitjacket, this is not a normal conversation, folks.
No, it's not a normal kind of podcast.
My daughter grew up with all this. Well, yeah, my daughter grew up with all this kind of stuff, and my stepson as well. And it was so normal around the house to have 600-700 sets of handcuffs, straitjackets, coffins. People would come over and they go, "Oh my God." And my daughter would go, "Oh God, yeah, don't even worry about it. Those are bean giants. Those are nice, those are good handcuffs." And the people are like, "You're weird."
Yeah. Yeah, it is strange. I remember when I first moved in with my now wife, and I'm carrying in like straitjackets and chains and stuff. It's like, don't worry about it. It's all for the show. That's fine. We're just going to hang that up in the closet
don't worry
there.
about it.
Yeah, it's fine.
We moved into this one neighborhood, and my office was down on the street level, and I had a full wall of trophy handcuffs, behind me. And on Halloween, when we're out there sitting, some of the people in the neighborhood would come up and say, listen, I go by your house and I'm just curious. What's with all the handcuffs? And we said, I can't tell you. And they all go like, oh, shit.
That's nice. It's nice that keep the mystery going. When you were getting the straitjacket and like trying to get handcuffs and stuff like that, was there like difficulty trying to get them in where you're living, or were like other places you can go to buy handcuffs and stuff? Because like in Ireland, we had a magic shop, but it was like it didn't sell straitjackets or like anything along those lines.
Well, I got lucky because my dad was a psychiatrist and he's in charge of a hospital. So when I put out the order that I want a straitjacket, he actually, my very first straitjacket, actually, he called out to one of his old friends, and his friend had what they call a camisole. It's from the French word camisole de force, which means straitjacket. But this camisole was actually built on Alcatraz Island right before they closed down. I think they closed down in 1963 or so. And my dad's friend got one of the old ones from there and sent it to me. And that's the straitjacket I got. My very first straitjacket was actually a camisole from Alcatraz. So,
nice.
but it's, you know, I mean, you come from a family of psychiatrists, so that kind of helped, I guess, get some of these restraints. And then later on, I got to actually evaluate some of the soft restraints from my dad's hospital. And I would say, hey, listen, you know, this is pretty good, except you might want to watch out for this part, you know, blah, 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 blah. But I've spent a life in straitjackets.
That's really cool, Michael. When did you realize that it was kind of more than just a hobby, that it was really a career?
I don't know if I even recognized that yet. I don't, you know, I got out of high school, and I took a couple of part-time jobs, you know, because there's a thing I like to do called eat, and so I'm doing these part-time jobs, but I'm still driving into Hollywood 3 times a week, you know, banging on doors, sneaking into studios. Heck, I even used to sneak into the Magic Castle over in Los Angeles. And that was really cool because Bill Larson was there, and I met one of my idols, a guy named Di Vernon, and they would show me around and just like, oh, it was so cool. But I just always wanted to do magic, and I just started like out of high school, and that's just kind of been the main constant in my life. You know, I got married, had a family, whatever, you know, always doing magic, but always having side businesses as well. So, but magic's always there. I mean, you know, we're all born for something.
Yeah.
And mine was to get out of stuff.
You can swear all you want. It's fine. Who gives a shit?
Yeah. Sorry.
It's Ireland. We can't help but say shit and fuck and all that sort of stuff as we speak.
Well, then we'll get along fine.
Exactly. But you speak about the magic. One of the questions we actually had someone ask before was, Jamie, do you have any tips on how to team other tricks you do around being an escape artist? Because I think that's something that people struggle with a lot of times when it's like doing a bigger show, because it can't all be escapes.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. My show got reviewed once by a reporter in Los Angeles, and I was upset with him because he said, you can't categorize Griffin. And I took that as a slam. So I called him up later on. I said, what do you mean by that? Because I want to try to improve. He said, well, it's really cool. He said, when I was a kid, my parents were freaks about Elvis Presley. And he goes, and I wanted to see Elvis in Vegas, but I wasn't allowed to go. So when my parents came back from seeing him, I go, what was it like? What was it like? Did he really rock the house? And they said, well, he's Elvis. He does rock. He does country. He does gospel. He does whatever, but it's all his style, and it all fits together. It's Elvis. You can't categorize it. And he said, that's what I meant by you. He goes, you're doing magic. You're doing mentalism. You're doing escapes. You're doing close-up. And he goes, you do them all really, really well. I can't categorize you. You're not just an escape artist. You're not just a magician. You're not just a comedian. And so I think, like when I see other magic and stuff, sometimes like you'll just see some other magic And maybe at first you don't see how it could correlate or tie in, pardon the pun, with escapes, but all of a sudden you'll be doing something totally else. All of a sudden you go, holy crap. And you'll make that work into it. You know, there's a lot of things. I mean, it's boy, I got so off track here. It's kind of hard to theme an entire show around escapes because it's like you said, Dave, that would get boring.
Yeah,
That'd get boring as hell. You know, so you've got to have ebbs and flows. You know, if you watch any good movie, any good drama, there's ups and downs. Any good relationship, there's ups and downs. I mean, God, if it was always up, that would be boring as hell.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you theme the whole thing around escapes. Maybe just theme it around your personality, and then what is an escape will come out. What is magic will come out.
Yeah, definitely.
No, go ahead.
I was just thinking about like when you're doing stuff as your like powers, what people might say. If you're an escape artist,
My what? Hold on, I have a little bit of a lag. Sorry.
Oh yeah, it's just people talk about like what your abilities are, and your tricks should kind of go with that. So I see like a needle swallowing routine and pulling out in thread. People expect you to be able to swallow keys and regurgitate them as an escape artist. So that would actually is a trick that would actually fit quite well into your repertoire as an escape artist. And like things about being dexterous with your hands can work as well, because you should be dexterous with your hands if you're picking locks and that sort of stuff. So I think you like just because you say you're an escape artist doesn't mean you can't do all these other tricks as well, because you have those skills, because you can swallow keys, you can pick locks, you cannot do all these things.
No, I agree 100%. I got into kind of a weird debate years ago. I think his name was Stan Allen, who used to put out the Magic magazine. And I was asking him, I was talking to him at a magic convention, and I was making the pitch because I've heard it my entire life from other magicians that an escape artist isn't a magician. Well, I think that's total bullshit. Escapes is one of the fundamental portions of magic. I mean, even going way back into the birth of religion, it was all about the magic of being buried and then still coming back. And so I made that pitch, but he kept going back to the old hackneyed logic that I've heard all my life. Houdini wasn't a magician, Thurston was a magician. Well, that's bullshit again, because Houdini was a magician.
Yeah.
You know, and half of the stuff I do, my escapes, aren't really based on the prop. It's based on the magic of psychology, misdirection, both physical and mental. You know, so don't tell me that I don't know magic. I know magic more than most magicians. And I'm going to get slammed for saying that. But I started out as a close-up magician. And I love magic. And I think a good escape artist knows all these things. Again, let's go back to Elvis Presley. They said, did you invent rock and roll? He says, no, rock and roll really is a combination of rhythm and blues, gospel, Southern, you know, all this stuff. You just throw it all together. So I think there are some magicians who are solely into their little genre.
Yeah.
But that's not me. I love escapes, but I love magic too. Yeah. I mean, I love it.
It's good to have a mixed bag though, like that, because then you can be whatever type of performer, and then your real personality can come out through your tricks. I mean, one of the effects I saw recently, but I had seen it before, is one of yours, Michael, when you were on a show and you did the routine where you don't touch the handcuff, but it opens kind of like with a shock kind of opening. I mean, it's such a startling moment, but it doesn't look like full-on mentalism, or escapology. It looks like mentalism as well.
Yeah, I know it's kind of weird. I started playing around with that idea years ago, and it was kind of like, holy crap, this is like a mentalism escape.
Yeah.
You know, and so I love doing that thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think mixing and matching what you're doing is really important, because it keeps it interesting for the audience. As you say, it's like an escape artist show. If it was just like, put me in handcuffs, I'm out. Put me in rope, I'm out. Put me in a box, I'm out. It gets a bit repetitive, because even for me with mentalism, I think if the show is think of something, that's it. You think of something, it's that. You think of something, it's that. It's like that's not a show. There has to be drama to the show.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, you go to a restaurant and
Mhm.
they bring you a thing of ketchup. So you've got this little thing of ketchup. Okay, that's great. Ketchup's great, but shit, how much better would it be if I put a French fry in it,
Yeah.
or a piece of fish? Let's add something together to make something more palatable.
Yeah. Because I
It
think
ain't just about, it's like you said, Dave. Hmm?
yeah. I just agree with you that
Oh,
like
here comes
as
that lag.
oh, great job. The lay people or like the general public don't know the difference. They look at us all as magicians.
Well, yeah,
Like
yeah.
if you put mentalist into Google as your like Google ranking, nobody's Googling for a mentalist, or nobody's really Googling for, oh, we need an escape artist for our next like corporate event or whatever. But
Right.
once they find you, they go, that is what we wanted. But to them, it's magician. That's the word.
Yeah, that is the word. And again, I go back to music. Hey, let's
Mhm.
get some music. Oh, okay. Well, now you've got all these choices. But when you first
Yeah.
thought about it, it was music. It's the same thing with magic, mentalism, escapism, balloon animals, whatever. You look under magic. That's the
Yeah,
umbrella.
definitely. And when you're going forward and you're like putting together a show, what sort of way do you like to end with an escape, or where do you like to place them throughout your show if someone's putting together their first like stage performance?
You're asking me, how do I structure my show?
Yeah, like if you have any advice for people who are trying to structure a show and like where to mix in escapes or maybe other things throughout the show.
Okay, that can be a loaded question because I keep going back to a poster I saw when I was a kid. And the poster was each according to the dictates of their own conscience.
Mhm.
And what that means to me is I can tell you how I structure a show, but it wouldn't work for you at all because it goes back
Yeah.
to what you said a minute ago. You've got to use what's you. I used to have this great friend of mine. I was impressed with him.
Mhm.
But then I saw him grow up a little bit, and especially on America's Got Talent, all he was a David Copperfield clone, right down to the same dance moves, the same patter, the same movements on stage. And I just go, oh my God, I can't handle that. You've got to
Yeah.
feel it in your gut. I years ago, I went to the Siegfried and Roy show, and I enjoyed watching the Siegfried and Roy show before they even went to the bigger venue. Then a couple of years later, we go to the bigger venue, and a producer that wanted to work with me in a show said, "What did you think about their show?" And I said, "I enjoyed it." And he goes, "Could you do that?" I said, "I wouldn't be good at that." And he goes, "Why not?" I said, "Well, because what they're doing, it's a very linear show. It's point
Mhm.
A, B, C, D, all the way up to Z." I said, "There's no room for improvisation. It's all scripted. It's right down to the letter." I said, "I can't do that. There's magicians out there who are great at that, but that's not me. I'm more of a concert. Like even
Mhm.
with my guys, I'll be on stage, I'll give them a breakdown of what we're going to do, and I'll get out there and I'll grab that microphone and I'll say, 'Ladies and gentlemen, blah blah blah,' and all of a sudden I'll change it, and it cracks me up because I'll look back at my guy and he's already bringing out a prop. He goes, 'Ah, shit,' and he has to jump and get something else because I like that excitement of a live audience, of a live concert. I don't want to be linear from A to Z, totally scripted out. I like the spontaneity. I want to bleed a little bit. I want to sweat. If I get a broken bone, I get a broken bone. But
Yeah.
that's what you do. It's like Springsteen. You go
Mhm.
out there and you empty the damn tank every night and you mix it up.
Definitely. So I definitely see like when me and Steve do shows together and things like that, we always go a bit like we're more bullet point than script. Like when we
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
more. I want to be in the moment. Otherwise, I end up in myself going in autopilot, and I hate when I can tell I'm on autopilot because I'm not doing my best work. So
All right.
if I
Yeah.
ever do that, I switch it up immediately to get out
Mhm.
because it's the worst.
Yeah, I love hearing that because again, if you're not in the moment, I don't think you can effectively entertain those folks. They paid money to see you. That's
Yeah.
like going out on a date, like, with a girlfriend or whatever, and saying, "Oh, okay, my friend sent me the script, so here I do this, here I do this, here I do this, and then we do this, right?" Yeah, boy, that's a real happy, fun evening.
I
No,
think the key to that
get in
is
the moment.
you're live on stage, and you have to be live on stage, and that's really where it boils down.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah, I agree with you 1,000,000%, which makes me a horrible mathematician, but whatever.
You can get. I'm sure we can figure out a way to get to 1,000,000%. It'll be fine. But yeah, I definitely find, because I even find I used to go to comedy clubs before the pandemic, and I'd be watching comedians who'd be working on their 10 minutes, and every week I'd go there and I'd know the words after like week 4 or 5, because that's how they have to structure it. Now, it would drive me crazy. I couldn't do it myself because I get too bored in myself.
Yeah, that's hard to do.
Yeah, it was, and
that's hard to do. I've seen a couple of magicians. Huh?
They'd occasionally swap a word to see if it made the joke better, but that was about it.
Yeah, you got to play. You got to play with the audience. And especially it cracks me up too, because like I'll do some of my corporate events. Like recently, I'm doing one of my corporate events, and this one trick I've got a great little story for. All of a sudden, I pull it out to get ready to do it, and it's just totally not set. It's just effed up. And I said, "And now, ladies and gentlemen, I showed you this because I want to get you ready for this next one." And they go.
Definitely. Things go wrong on stage, and if you're two in a script, you can't get around it. Like, it's just how it happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I've had some disasters from that, where you ask someone up, ask them to think of something, and they can't think of anything. You're like, anything will do. Anything, please, just give me something. And then it won't work. But yeah, definitely I think flexibility is correct.
You got to think on your feet. I was doing I think it was a country club around the holidays, and for some reason I haven't done it forever, but because it was a big banquet facility, I thought I would do some silverware bending. And I was going to finish with this thing I saw a gentleman named Richard Osterland do years ago, which just blew me away, where it's multiple pieces of cutlery at once and they all just kind of like melt down like that. And I did that. Well, all of a sudden, this little girl, she's like 14 or 15. She's just one of those people that just hates people. She goes, "Impress me, bend this." And she got like a soup ladle and she slid it down on the floor to me. So I picked it up and there's no way I could do it without everybody burning me and seeing. So all of a sudden I did this. I said, "Stop. You want me to bend this?" And when everybody looked at her, I bent it up under my arm. And then she looked back at me. I said, "Now watch." Whoosh. They go, "Whoa!" So you just got to make do with what works or what happens.
Nice. Yeah. Definitely. I remember I was performing one time and I was doing a drawing duplication and a close-up, and they put the drawing on my hand and then they all turned to each other and started talking. So I just had it like this and went, cool. Nobody saw me do it. I was like, I didn't even take out my peak wallet, nothing. I just straight up looked at the piece of paper and put it back in my hand. And they freaked out once I revealed it. I was like, and these were shooting doctors. So
well, years ago, you guys, years ago, I used to work part-time at a store called Hollywood Magic. It was down in Costa Mesa, California. And we used to love that. Well, there was this guy that would come in and he was so good with close-up magic. I can't remember his name, but he was so good with cards. He was a little bit cocky too. That was fine because I'm more known for the escapes. So anyway, I'm doing a card trick. Well, he always wore those mirror sunglasses. And so we're outside, right? So I go, "I'll try a trick." So I just held up the card. I said, "Just take a card." And he took it. I go, "Okay, now think about it." And I would tell him. And I did it like 4 times in a row. He's going, how the heck are you doing that?" And I said, "Don't worry about it. I'm just good." And I finally told him, "Look at your sunglasses." He goes, "You son of a..."
Oh, it's so good. There's nothing better than getting someone like that. When you're doing something, when you're doing your magic stuff like that outside of the escapes, what sort of stuff really grabs you? Is it like the cards, coins, or is it just a mixture of everything?
What do you mean grabs me?
Well, like that's you find that you're more interested in, or that like if you're performing socially, would you consider yourself like a cards performer or an all rounder or just coins, or what sort of way do you go?
If I'm doing a corporate event,
Mhm.
I enjoy it all,
Yeah.
but probably at the end of the event, I'm feeling better on some of the reaction that maybe a mentalist piece got, or
Yeah.
maybe even a little something I've been working on for a few years now with my own routine for a mini chop cup. It doesn't get the most thunderous applause, but dadgum, it sure makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Some of my close-up escapes I really like, and this is going to sound really conceited, but I've
Mhm.
invented a lot of escapes, a lot of close-up escapes, a lot of different types of escapes, or I've taken things that were just in a Houdini book that we read when we were kids that never really happened, but I'm able now to make them a show closing presentation. So some of that, it just sounds conceited. But
It's true.
maybe that makes me more happy is the reactions my creations get.
Yeah.
That is conceited. Ooh.
I feel the same when I perform.
For people
Yeah.
who don't know, Michael, you've done a lot of crazy stunts, really dangerous things in your career. What do you think was the hardest one? Maybe it mightn't have been the hardest one to put together, but just the hardest one to kind of perform or execute.
The hanging was hard. I did an escape underneath the ice that was hard. I mean, I'm always getting beat up or broken. You know, that's part of the gig.
Yeah.
And it cracks me up because over the last 30 years, I'll get people say I quit doing escapes because I got hurt. I'm going, you can't be a pussy and do this. You know, if you're not bleeding, if you're not sweating, if you're not broken, you ain't doing it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The hanging was hard. Because you had to do something really fast before you pass out. But you also had to be careful too, that you don't break your neck by doing something wrong. And there was really no way to practice it. You know, I just, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt bad. But it's just like when I do an underwater escape. I did an underwater escape at the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico, off of Texas. And I had no idea there's hammerhead sharks there. No idea. And we had like 1,000 people, and they're all out on the pier and everything. And I'm on the boat about 10, 20 feet out, 20 yards out from them. I've got the sheriff's department out on the pier trying to have me stop. And the sheriff's talking to me, and I'm getting ready to jump in there. And the water's not deep, but it's warm. And the sheriff's going, "Are you familiar that there are sharks down here?" I go, "Yes, sir, I'm totally familiar." He goes, "Some of those sharks are hammerheads." I'm going, "Yes, sir, I'm totally familiar." I look at my guys, "You didn't say shit about hammerheads. Oh God, these are hammerheads." So you know that there's hammerheads there, but you're still all locked up. All of a sudden I jump down, I'm at the bottom. It's only like where I was, only like 8, 10 feet deep, whatever, no big deal. But I'm on the bottom, getting out of all the stuff. And I'm looking around going, looking for hammerheads. So I mean, there's always stuff.
That's terrifying.
What you think?
My biggest fear is the paper cut, so that's that's all I can worry about.
God, I hate paper cuts.
They're the worst. Wait, you were talking earlier about just doing some escapes close up, and a lot of people only really think of escapes as something they do on stage. Do you have any sort of advice for people who want to do escapes close up of like a good place to start?
Yeah, start close up. it can be anything. In some of these old books that I used to read, like when I was growing up, there were things like, this thumb cuff, like, where am I? Right there? Okay. Like, you got thumb cuffs, and they were really weird techniques. So I would try them, like when I was like 8th grade, and I had one of my dad's friends was a probation officer, so he would give me handcuffs, he would give me thumb cuffs. So I tried the method that they show in the books, and he goes, "Well, why are you holding your thumb like that?" So I'm going, ugh. So I had to come up with my own methods for thumb cuffs. But now when I'm doing close-up magic, if I'm doing a corporate event where they don't want a stage show, they just want me to do close-up, I do thumb cuffs. I'm one of those weird close-up magicians that really doesn't do cards and coins. And so I'll do the thumb cuff, and I'll lock a gentleman up with it. I'll give him the key. He can't get out. We let him out. They lock me up in the thumb cuff, and he really cranks it down tight. I mean, it's like right between the 2 knuckles. Cranks the hell out of it tight. Key goes in my back pocket, and I do this. I move my hand like this. All of a sudden, that's the thumb cuff. It's between my hands like that. People freak out. And it's not a new escape, but it's a new way to do it. And so that's a close-up thing. You can do rubber bands up close. You can do a small chain up close. Sometimes I'll do a handcuff up close. You just got to dial it down. On stage you're thrashing around. You may die. Hopefully you won't die doing close-up magic, unless it's the dreaded paper cut.
Yeah. Sometimes you feel like you are going to die after a paper cut.
Oh yeah. Sometimes I feel like I'm going to die after I do a trick.
I find that on Zoom sometimes when I perform a trick and everybody's muted and you're like, did they like it? Because I can't take the silence after performing. I get too insecure.
Oh my God. That's what I meant. I die often after I do a trick on Zoom, because it's like, we just did a Zoom where half of the audience was over in Germany. So I'm doing all this stuff. There's like no feedback. You're like, I hate my life.
A lot of this.
Yeah, lots of hand waving, and that's all you get. How have you been finding the Zoom show?
It's just like, oh God. Say what?
How did you find doing the Zoom shows overall? Is it something that you're enjoying doing, or is it something that you're just counting down the days till you don't have to do them anymore?
I'm actually enjoying it. I mean, I know there's a lot of performers out there, a lot of magicians who have a great Zoom presentation and stuff. I'm not one of them, but I am enjoying what I do. And every time I do a Zoom show, I feel more comfortable and I enjoy it more. My first Zoom show was really weird, but now I've gotten to the point where I like it. And I know that even if the response is going to be slower, there's going to be a lag in the communication. I just say, cool, it's part of the gig. But I'm able to do a lot more close-up now, and I enjoy doing that, like coins and stuff like that, which I just said a minute ago I don't do coins. Love doing coins when I'm doing close-up.
Yeah.
Cool.
They're definitely like they're a different medium, but they're going to be here a while anyway, because companies realize they don't have to spend money on the conference hall, so that's going to carry on for a while at least.
Oh, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, they're definitely, and there's
plus it cuts way down on your transportation costs.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we have a 3 o'clock Zoom show. Well, I better leave at 2:30 to get out of the bedroom.
And just upper half suit, and then just like shorts or like sweatpants underneath, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I'm actually gotten to the point now when I send out the instructions for my Zoom show, I say, please suggest that everybody be fully clothed, because I don't want anybody getting up for, look, sponge balls.
Turn off your camera before you go to the restroom, please, and thank you.
Oh my God, yes.
You don't want any of that. So we have a segment on the show that I'll bring up here. It's called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And basically we ask our guests to tell us a story about a performance that maybe started off good, went bad, or even ugly. Basically a disastrous performance story. What springs to mind for you?
I lost you at the last part.
I was just wondering what story springs to mind for you when it comes to a performance not going well.
Well,
And
the
it can't have hammerhead
podcast
shark.
isn't that long. There was one that was really funny. Back when I was married, we were playing a lot of colleges, and my wife, my ex-wife, whatever, I'm doing a German transport chain, transport kit, and she goes, it'd be really cool, like it'd be really neat if after they lock you up in the chain, you step downstage in a very dramatic, commanding voice where all the attention is focused on your hands. You go, now, now watch close. So I go, okay, yeah, that sounds really good on paper. So I go down to the bottom of the stage. Now, watch close. Whoom. It just died. And I looked back at my ex-wife, and she's not tall, but she got really short really fast. I looked at her, she's going,
Is that why she's your
so
ex-wife?
that one was just, say what?
Is that why she's your ex-wife now?
No. I'm her ex-husband because I'm me. It wasn't her fault.
Oh, there's nothing worse than when you think an idea is going to really play big and this is going to be dramatic, maybe standing ovation, and then it's just silence.
Yeah, and you realize they're standing to get out of there real quick.
Yeah. You're like, you're leaving. Okay, bye. Thanks for coming.
It's like I thought this line would be really funny once. I'm at a college, and I'm in the audience doing a mentalism routine, and while this person was writing down this thing, I said, folks, let's talk about planets while she's writing this down. Can you say Uranus? Boy, that just bombed. It's just like, man, I died on stage so many times.
Yeah. Oh, there's nothing worse than when you think, like, especially because sometimes, as we were saying, we work off bullet points mainly, and it leaves room open for improvisation. And you end up saying the stupidest stuff you could think of, and afterwards you're like, why did I even think that was going to get a laugh? That was just stupid.
Well, it's weird. I mean, again, we all have our thing that we do, and mine has been escapes. And I really can't think of a time, I mean, other than that German chain, where an escape's really gone really south. I mean, because you can always pull it out to make it work. We did this one handcuff challenge where I had a sheriff come up. She was a female sheriff, deputy, and she handcuffed me up. But then she also they have these little plastic boxes that go over handcuffs that make it a rigid device. And that box has a slot in it where you can run a chain through it. And they can chain it to your waist and whatever. So they've got me chained up, and I've got it here, and it's chained to my waist, and then I'm kneeled down, and I'm about to be put into a canvas bag that's airtight. Well, I pitched forward, and when I was falling, I tried to put my hand out, but it's attached to my chain. So just my wrist kind of flexed out a little bit like that. Well, it felt like I broke my wrist. So I said, ladies and gentlemen, I think I've really hurt my wrist. Would it be okay with you if the sheriff came back up, and if there's a nurse or anybody who could come up here, if they would just take it off just for a second, because it really feels bad, and then maybe relock it. I'm not trying to play a game. I just want some more movement. So they brought the sheriff up here, and then the nurse came up here, and she looked and she goes, that thing's broken. And I heard later on from my wife back in the wings that the show promoter had said, oh my God, I got to stop him. And my ex-wife goes, you can't stop him. And she goes, but he's broken. She goes, it doesn't matter. He'll chew his arm off. So the nurse said, yeah, it's broken. I said, well then, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if I can get out, but if you'd give a little bit extra time, would that be okay? And the audience goes, yeah. So they locked it above the brake, put me in the airbag, and I was still able to get out. And we did all that. and the place just came unglued. But, I don't know what got me off on that, but it's just, something not going as planned, but you still make it
Definitely.
work. Like I helped
Mhm.
catch a murderer once with a rope tie,
How did you
and
catch
that was like really weird, but you don't know. Say what?
Can we get more details on how you caught a murderer with a rope tie?
Oh, yeah. Well, it happens all the time.
Oh, yes.
we were down south. It was either Arkansas or Alabama. We were down south playing a mall, and I've got a challenge. I've got 2 challenges open to the world. The first challenge is $1,000 if you can tie me up with rope and I cannot get out. And let me tell you, I've had so many escape artists and drunk people take me up on that, and they get really cocky, but they always leave. And then I've got a $100,000 challenge open to anybody anywhere in the world who can come up with something that I can't get out of. And that's actually led to death threats, like over in Singapore. But on this case, this was the $1,000 rope challenge. And my ex-wife at the time, she goes, Mike, because that's my name. She goes, Mike, there's a guy here who wants to tie you up. She goes, don't mess with him. He's really weird. I go, oh, well, that's the guy I want. So I go up to the guy and I go, so, hey, I understand you want to tie me up with rope. And the guy looks at me like this. He goes, I like rope. I'm going, oh, God. So I'm going, okay, do you know how to tie up people with rope? He goes, I like to tie people up with rope. I'm going, oh, my God. Okay. So now I'm being facetious. And I go, okay, so do you have any rope? Because I've always got rope, because people don't bring rope to the show. He goes, yes, I have rope out of my car. I'm going, oh my God, okay. So I bring him up for the challenge. He's a total space cadet. I bring him up for the challenge. This always tips me off. The first thing he did was he had me get down on the ground, threw a rope around my neck, and stepped on me and pulled slack out of the rope. This guy had me tied up so fast, he knew exactly what he was doing. He'd done this a million times before. So all of a sudden, I'm tied up in a way that I'm not normally tied up. And it's with such a heavy amount of leverage that I'm concerned. I mean, I was really concerned. Well, all of a sudden, and remember, guys, I'm face down. So I see people's feet, right? Well, all of a sudden, 2 sheriff's deputies are up on stage. They should not be on my stage at this part of the show. So I'm going, okay, maybe my ex-wife's doing that for extra drama. Well, all of a sudden, I say, okay, gentlemen, if you would, please all take your seat or whatever. And I go to start the rope tie or start to get out of the ropes. I can't move. I thought I was failed. I can't do anything. Well, I start to pass out. And all I remember, I mean, it was really weird. All I remember was like hearing my grandma, and my grandma saying, Mike, you can do it. Oh, my grandma's dead. But that's what I heard. And then all of a sudden I looked up and there's these people looking at me. So I get back to getting out of the ropes. And I finally get out of the ropes. I think I'd passed out for a second, I guess. So I get out of the ropes. It was a mother. Get out of the ropes. I throw it down. Well, it's weird because the guy's not there. And the one deputy's on stage, but the other deputy's gone. So I have no idea what's going on. So we stopped the show really quick because I'm spent at that point. The deputy is all over me. He's going, what do you know about this guy? Have you met this guy before? Did you set this up with this guy before? They were asking me every kind of details. I'm going, this is so unusual. I'm going, why? Why are you asking all this? He goes, okay. He goes, over the course of the last 2 years, 8 female college students, what do you call it? 8 female college students. I can't remember the word. My daughter was a college student. He goes, 8 of these were found tied the same way you were just tied up, in the same manner. And he goes, in the trunks of cars. He goes, we have reason to believe that guy may be it. So I go, holy jeez. So I'm freaked out at this point. So we get back to the hotel. I still have to finish up the tour. So about 3 months later, I finally get a call from the sheriff's department. And they go, well, we just want to touch base with you. We found the guy. We are proceeding to charge him. We believe that is the guy. He goes, we just wanted to say thanks because it was your rope escape that brought that guy out. It was just like those old cartoons where the guy always goes back to the scene of his crime. This guy had to have that jolly of the attention of doing it one more time, I guess. So
And
yeah,
in
we
front
helped catch a murderer.
Yeah.
Huh?
Whenever would he have gotten the chance to do it in front of an audience? The thing that he loves to do.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like showing off type thing. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it was really weird. I mean, really weird.
Yeah.
You were just happy that you didn't have to give him $1,000, Mike.
Give him a get out of jail card.
Yeah,
Co-eds. That's
Co-ed,
the name for
that's the
female co-eds.
yeah.
Good. Wow, that's an incredible story.
That's unreal. And I think I honestly can't think of a better story to end on than that. That was quite spectacular. Before we wrap up, do you have anything you want to promote for anybody where people can find you online and things like that?
Oh yeah, folks. I mean, not only with this great podcast, but my website is just simply escapeguy.com, like a guy who does escapes. Escapeguy.com. You know, and plus, if any of your listeners have old handcuffs, I'm going to like put the camera over there, or no, wait, it goes over that way. I collect old handcuffs.
Nice.
So there's tons of money in jail jewelry. I love building up collections. And if you guys, have you guys got like an extra minute or two?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I've got an old set of handcuffs here, and I'll show you guys a close-up handcuff escape.
Perfect.
At least I think I will.
An attempted escape.
Yeah, exactly. Let me get on camera here. Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, normally on stage, I would invite a person up and I'd put the handcuffs on her because I need her to be able to verify for you that the handcuffs are heavy, they're legitimate, they're steel, they don't break, they don't pop open, they're heavy antique handcuffs.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to play the part of the girl as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you that when I was growing up, I actually grew up in a foreign country, Southern California. And after I got out of high school, I started going down to LA, you know, a couple, 3 times a week, doing escapes, or getting out of boxes, getting out of bags, getting out of coffins. I finally was able to talk my way into a very small jail cell in Los Angeles. And it wasn't a normal cell, it was very small. And the door didn't have bars on the door. It was a solid steel door. The padlock goes on the outside. So they had stripped me down naked, make sure I have nothing on me. They'd locked me up in a set of handcuffs and put me in the jail cell. And again, the padlock's on the outside. Well, I was able to get out. And the reporter girl was so freaked out. She goes, "Hey, Mike." That's my name. She goes, "Hey, Mike." She goes, "I've got some questions about this. Will you meet me tomorrow down at that greasy pizza joint on Hollywood Boulevard? Bring the handcuffs." Well, like I've never heard a girl tell me to bring handcuffs in Hollywood before. So I go down there and I locked her up in handcuffs. So I'm kind of playing the part of the reporter as well because there's no reporter here. So she had been in handcuffs for a couple, 3 minutes at this point. And I asked her, I said, "Will you verify you can't get out?" She goes, "No, I can't get out." There's only one way to get out of a set of handcuffs, guys. And that's with the
Key.
I have the key for these cuffs here. I keep the key in a piece of jeweler's paper folded up because this is where the backstory gets real deep. In the 1950s, a mansion in Hollywood, California burned down to the ground. That mansion was owned by Harry Houdini. Mm-hmm. This key, if you guys can see it, this key was cut by Harry Houdini. And so I gave the key back to the reporter. And I said, "This is where it's going to get really weird." And she goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, what I also want you to do is hold on to this thing." Can you see it? Yeah. And at this point, she goes, "I don't get what I saw yesterday." She goes, "You know, I've just spent 2 or 3 minutes in the handcuffs." She goes, "We locked you up." She goes, "I just spent 3 minutes in the handcuffs." She goes, "I have no idea how you get out of the handcuffs with the key, let alone without the key." And then she goes, "In fact, give me the key." So I did this. I go, what key? And then stuff got really weird. I'll see. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
She goes, what did you just do? She goes, did you put your hands out? I said, no. I said, to be fair, it can slide a little bit, but it won't go over my wrist. I go, I'll lock it tighter. So I even locked it tighter. She goes, I don't get what I just saw. I said, that's what I love about what I do. I said, I learned, even if I can't physically touch the handcuff to get it open, I said, how cool would it be to get it open in a different manner? So I did this, I concentrated.
That's so cool.
Thank you. That's a close-up handcuff escape. Awesome.
That is really brilliant. That's
Thank
such
you.
a great
Half hour.
story and stuff. That's absolutely brilliant. I've really enjoyed that. That's such a great performance and everything. And I definitely think people enjoy watching that.
Thank you very much.
We should thanks again, Mike, for joining with us. We really appreciate you being here. And again, for everybody watching, you can find Mike on his website, escapeguy.com. And you can find us on Deceive Reality.
Escapeguy.com. And you guys, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys for having me. That was awesome.
It was a pleasure, Michael. Brilliant.
We'll be back again next week, everyone.